All right, I'm just gonna make a video talking about box fill. So if you look at 314.16b1, conductor fill, read that yourself. I'm just gonna draw you a picture and show you how much you're gonna count for an allowance, right? So if I draw that, I have a wire nut here. The wire is originating outside and getting spliced inside. Another wire originating outside, getting spliced inside. Or yeah. I see two conductors here, so I'm gonna write 2, all right? So that's 2. Let's draw another example. Do this one here. Another wire nut. Excuse the bad drawing. And then we have just a wire that's passing through, all right? How many is there? There's 3. 1, 2, 3. Even though you see it entering at 2 points, it doesn't matter. It didn't splice or it didn't wire nut in there. According to each conductor that passes through the box without splice or termination shall be counted once. So that's why, right? According to the reading. So this, you count it 3 times, all right? Let's do another example for this. All right, how many do we see here? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? You would think it's 5, but it's actually 4 because this one right here did not originate outside the box. So you only count the 4 that's originating outside coming inside. So there's only 4 there. 4. All right, let's work on the next one. 314.16b two. Clamp fill. Basically, you just count the clamps once if it's internal. So, for example, you have 2 internal clamps, all right? You have 4 internal clamps. And you have a wire coming in here, wire coming in here. So right now we're just focusing on the clamps. We're not focusing on the conductors. So how many clamps do you see? 4. You see 4 clamps, right? It doesn't matter how many clamps there are, as long as there's 1, just count it once. All right. Next one. How many internal clamps do you see? I see none because these are external. So for this one, there is 0 volume allowance. All right. I'm going to talk about those volume allowance for now. Just bear with me. All right. Next one. All right. How many internal clamps do you see? I see 2 internal clamps, but it doesn't matter how many clamps there are. I'm just going to count it once. All right. So that's how you do that. Let's look at 314.16b3, where 1 or more luminaire studs or hickeys are present in a box. A single volume allowance recording with should be made. All right. So it's just, if you see 2 supports, 3 supports, doesn't matter. Just count it once. Let's do an example. 314.16b3. So let's just draw, I guess, a luminaire, the support of some kind. All right, and just count that once. Another example, 2 supports. You're only going to count that once. All right. Now let's look at devices. 314.16b 4. All right, you can read that on your own, but I can just summarize it. Basically, these things that hold a switch or one of those outlets you see in a wall, these are yokes. And every time you see a yoke, you're going to count 2 times. So, example, count this guy 2 times. Another example, count this guy 4 times because there's 2 yokes. Each yoke counts 2 times. Each yoke equals 2. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. All right. Last but not least, 314.16b 5. Equipment grounding conductor. Basically, no matter how many bare equipment grounding conductors are in a box, you just count it once. All right. Based off the largest one, but usually you don't need to worry about that. So let's say all these are bare equipment conductors, right? You see 3, but just count that once. So that's pretty simple. All right, so these are called volume allowances. These numbers right here. And you're going to use those to determine what size box you're going to need. All right, let's talk about that. All right, so 314.16b1 talks about number of conductors. Number of conductors. 314.16b2 talks about clamps. 314.16b3 talks about supports. 16b4 talks about device. 16b5 talks about equipment grounding conductors. All right. So remember this order. We're gonna draw a little box. All right. And we're gonna add, number of conductors, add clamps, add support, add device, add equipment grounding conductor equals the total volume allowance. All right. So let's look at some examples. Oh, this one right here. How many conductors are in this picture to this left? All right. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't count this bare one because that's the equipment grounding conductor. So this is 14 AWG wire, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So I'm just gonna write 14 AWG, and the quantity is 5. Clamps, we have 2 internal clamps, but we're just gonna count that once, right? Once. Supports, there are no supports. Usually supports are only for lights up in the ceiling and stuff like that. So device, we have 1 device. Device is like a switch or one of those receptacle. So I see 1 device here and another device here, all right? Remember, each yoke counts as 2. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. 4. How many equipment grounding conductors? I see 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter. We're just going to count it once. We have 5 plus 1 plus 0 plus 4 plus 1 equals 11. So 11 is what we're going to get. Now, we're going to have to use a table. Let's see what table it is. Table 314.16b, volume allowance required per conductor, right? So we want to find the size wire that we're using. So we use size number 14 AWG. Remember, size 14 AWG. Let's find size 14. Cool. And since we live in America, we're going to use inches squared. Actually, we can use both, but let's just use inches squared. So it's 2.00 inch squared. So you're going to multiply your total volume allowance by your whatever this is. So it's a 2 here because this is 14 here. And you do 11 times 2 equals 22 inch squared, right? Now you want to find the correct box. 22 inches squared, right? 22 inches squared. So we can't use this because these are too small. 22, oh, this is close, but 22 inches is more than this, so we can't use that. So we're gonna have to use this guy right here, or we can even use this guy right here. So, you know, it's up to you to what you want to choose. So that's how you do the box fill for that. I'm gonna do a couple more examples if you wanna watch the rest. All right, next example. We have an external clamp, a device, and number 14 size wire. How many number of conductors do we have? I see 1 and 2. So 2 number 14s. How many clamps? Internal clamps? We have 0 internal clamps. This is an external, so it doesn't count. How many supports? 0 supports because this is not light. How many devices? We have 1 device, 1 yoke, which equals 2. How many equipment grounding conductors? We have 1 equipment grounding conductor. 2 plus 2 plus 1, 5. All right. What do we multiply by? So we have number 14 AWG. Number 14 AWG multiply by 2 inches squared. Or multiply 2 inches squared. You get 10 inch squared, 10 inches squared, right? 10 inches squared, 10 inches squared. What can we use? Dude, we could use that 10 inches squared right there. It's pushing it, but oh, maybe we could do a 10.5, right? Or we could just do one of these square boxes and do an 18 inch squared. Doesn't matter. All right, next question. You have a number 14 AWG wire. You have about 6 of them in quantity. You have no internal clamps, no supports, 2 switches, and an equipment grounding conductor. And you also have a 4.8 inch squared cover plate. Try to do this by yourself, all right? Now I'm gonna give you the answer. What do I have? Size wire, I have number 14. How many? I have 6. How many clamps? 0 clamps. How many supports? 0 supports. How many devices? 2 devices. So there's 2 yokes. So you got 2 plus 2 equals 4. You also have equipment grounding conductor, so you're going to count that as 1, right? So 6 plus 4 equals 10, equals 11. Times it by the number 14 multiplier, 2 inches squared. You get 22 inch squared. Which box can we use? Ooh, 21. It's pretty close, right? We could actually use a 21 squared because of this guy right here. You have a 4.8-inch plate cover, right? So if I take the box, it's 21-inch squared, and I add the cover plate to it, it's 4.8-inch squared. It's going to be 25.8-inch squared. So we could actually use this guy. We could use the 21-inch squared box. All right. Try this question by yourself and see what you get. All right, I'm going to do it right now. Let's see. So remember that box, number of conductors. We have 2 conductors. Well, we have 2 of those number 12 conductors. And how many clamps do we have? We have 0 clamps. All right, how many supports do we have? We have 1 support. And how many devices do we have? We have 0 devices. How many equipment grounding conductor? We have 1. That's gonna equal 2 plus 1 plus 1, 3, 4, 4 times the multiplier for number 12 wire. So this time we're not using 14, we're using 12, which is 2.25 inches squared. Where am I? 2.25 inches squared. You're gonna get 9-inch squared. So which one can we use for a 9-inch squared? So these are devices, they're more for switches and receptacles, so let's not use those. Let's use a square or rectangle. 9-inch squared, we could use 12.5 here, or we could use 18. We can use 25 if we want, but what's the point? You know, it's too big. So I'll stick with the 12.5 or 18. It's up to you. So yeah, that's basically how you do box fill.